Coffee stain badge on a lanyard string. Hotel ballroom, buzzing, fluorescent wings. Name tags, crooked inside jokes. We live on acronyms and conference notes. Late night panels, early flights, still swapping war stories under dim lights. If the world goes sideways, who they gonna call? The weirdos taking roll in the expo hall. IAEM Talks tonight. Yeah, we laugh so we don't lose our minds. Blue skies days to the worst headline. We're the ones still on the lam.
Good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you are at in this fine nation. And today I am honored to have Chelsea St. George with me, president of IAEM-USA Region 1. And that is an awesome time here. So anyway, Chelsea, welcome to really the first live episode of IAEM Talks. And we're here to talk about, well, you. So, yeah.
Oh boy. Yeah. Somehow Region 1, number one always seems to be first on the list, but happy to be here. Thanks for the invite, Todd.
Absolutely. And we don't necessarily talk about you, Chelsea. We can talk about Region 1,
we're talking about Region 1.
But I do want to ask, I guess, the personal question, if you will. Like, how did you get into? Well, first of all, with the emergency management stuff, we can get into that later. But how did you get into, and why did you decide to get into IAEM leadership? Because that's a journey and a half for most people.
Well, see, this is a fun question, Todd, because I think everybody has a similar story in that we just kind of fell into it, or we're signed up not really understanding what we were signing up for and just stuck around. I started with IAEM just as a normal member, fresh out of college, not really knowing what I wanted to do when I grew up. Somehow decided emergency management might be that thing. And I was very fortunate early on. I had a really great mentor who kind of pushed me and said, hey, you need to join this organization. This association is fantastic if you want to build your network, if you want to learn new things, spread your wings. It's all about the community, which is a lot smaller, but also a lot bigger than I ever thought.
Yeah.
Right. And so, after getting my toes wet, participating, helping with some of the regional activities and conferences, I started as a state rep for New Hampshire. And then somehow now, one reason or another, I think folks remember Taylor Frizzell and Dave Muse from Region 1. They were like, oh, don't worry, you're going to be sliding up into this leadership. And I said, excuse me? What are we doing? And so I kind of stumbled in. They somehow convinced me to run for vice president a couple of years ago and did my time as vice president with the region and moved up to president. So here I am, Todd. I'm still trying to figure it out, but we're doing the things and we're doing them pretty well.
Yeah, I think that's part of, everything, right? We're all volunteers on the board. We're all trying to figure it out. We're there by the grace of our organizations that allow us to do it type stuff. I think that's kind of great to kind of give credit to the organizations to allow us to take time out of our day sometimes. And what I find really interesting in this is I tell people all the time, I say, all right, being on the board, it's easy, but it's hard. And what I mean by easy is like, you just, click a button and you show up to a meeting. There's not a lot of travel and that's associated with it. The hard part is like some of the conversations that you have and the decisions that have to be made. So it's challenging in one aspect of it, but I really do enjoy that part of it. What have you found since you're like one of the newer board members? You've been on less than a year now. Was it like drinking water from a fire hose or?
Oh, yeah.
Talk about that experience a little bit.
Again, I was really lucky. I had spent some time on our regional board. So I was able to figure out a little bit about the inner workings of the association. And of course, our immediate past presidents have done a tremendous job of laying the groundwork and expectations for what's going to be expected first month, second month in this role. And a lot of that transition occurs not just when that lovely stage swearing in occurs, it happens months before. So we know we're on deck. As soon as you're elected a vice president, at some point you're going to be slot into this role. But again, there's always something new. There's always something that you didn't quite understand before. but I think we're all just here for the same reasons. We're all servant leaders. We want to do right by our members, by our community. And so you take it on. But again, we had this conversation before where you get halfway in through your term and you just figure it out. And then you're already doing your succession planning and looking at how you're going to transition into a different role. So fortunately for our regional presidents, those are 2-year terms. So I actually get to get my feet wet and then do some performance and set some strategic planning in place for the region and set whoever's coming up next for success.
Now, speaking of that, trying to get people into leadership roles. What I mean by this is talking to them, saying, hey, this is something that I think you'd be good at. How do you look at recruiting, for lack of a better term, or encouraging, I suppose would be probably the best word to use, people to get involved in IAEM, in leadership positions, whether it's caucus level, committee, task force, maybe, at the state level, at the region level, like what's that conversation like for you? And do you find it hard to get people to get excited about becoming in leadership?
Well, I'll answer the second part of that question first. And no, it's not hard. It's really not hard to get people excited, especially when you get more than just a couple of minutes to sit down with somebody and talk to them about the association and all those different types of opportunities. Something that I think is true through all of our regions and throughout the association, but really has rung true in Region 1 for at least a decade, is looking at that pipeline and encouraging some of our emerging professionals, some of our students to really take on that leadership at a very early stage, and understanding that when they are jumping in, they have their swimmies on, they have, their full scuba equipment if they need it. But we have this whole cadre of this network behind them to support them and to lend a hand if needed. So for us, we say, jump in, but you're going to have the resources and the support. We're not going to let you fail, and you're not going into this blind. So the other thing that we try to really emphasize is you get what you get out of this association, this organization, what you put into it. So you can be, again, that leader that just shows up to our monthly board meetings at the first Friday of the month and sends your welcome email to your new constituents within your state, if that's what we're doing, and be done, but that's not really effective. And so we encourage folks, everybody has a different set of skills and a different comfort level for different types of activities. And so we try to find a place for them. There's always something to do, always something that's coming up next, but then also encouraging thought leadership, allowing people to feel empowered if they're passionate about something in particular to go forward, run with it, and let us know how we can best support them. We've gotten a lot of really great initiatives and ideas just based on that. And I think that's one of the things that makes our programming a little bit more unique, but also really engaging here in the region.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the exciting part about it too, is like when you sit down, and when I say you, talk about the collective you, the we, the us, right? When we sit down with members and say, hey, this is what this organization is truly about, right? And it truly is like what you put into it is what you get out of it. And I have worked with some of the greatest people, nicest people, dedicated people when it comes to leadership here at IAEM, and you're one of those people. It's awesome to have you on the board. So tell us a little bit about what's going on in Region 1. Like what exciting stuff is happening, and how are people getting engaged over there? Because I know you guys have a lot of stuff happening.
We have a lot of stuff coming up just within the next month or so. So that's really exciting. Every year, what we do as a new board, usually after the new year, because coming out of the national conference, heading into December and the holidays, good luck getting anybody to do anything meaningful. So usually January or very early February, we come together as a board within the region and do some strategic planning and put together our program plan. We have a little bit of time to crunch and get some of these projects underway, and we're finally now able to start to debut them. Something coming up is really interesting. It's a webinar that we're opening up to all IAEM members. It's on the calendar as well, but we're going to have NASA come and present as a webinar, which if you didn't think that they could get any cooler, they do. And their regional disaster coordination system. They use their applied sciences and earth monitoring to help provide situational awareness and decision-making support to emergency managers. And so we're going to have them on next week at the end of April.
Cool.
Yeah. So sign up. I'll send you the link. But they're an awesome group of folks that we met at the national conference last year. And so we're excited to bring them and showcase those resources for our local emergency managers, and also our private sector emergency managers. Then shortly after that, we have 2 events on the same day. The stars kind of aligned, and it's going to work out well. We are doing a critical infrastructure roundtable. This is something that our immediate past president, Dave Muse, had started through his Ready the Region initiative to look at how we can best stay ready amongst everything that was happening over the last 18 months or so. And so this is one of those projects that we're continuing on because it's worked. And so we are focusing on water and wastewater resilience and how we are able to partner not only with our traditional partners, but some of those non-traditional partners in our community to safeguard those systems. So we have guest speakers coming in from the Water ISAC, Department of Health. We have a lot of folks coming in. That's coming up at May 11th. And so if you're in New England, stop on in. It's going to be a fun time.
Yeah, May 11th is the kickoff. No, it's June 11th. I was gonna say it's the kickoff of, but no, we've got so much stuff. I'm half joking. I feel like we've been doing FIFA for like the last
forever.
16 years, and it's been my career. It's the longest. It's been the longest year and a half of my life. So speaking of that, with FIFA, Boston's gonna have some games.
Mm-hmm.
Are you doing anything for that?
Guess what? I don't have to, but a lot of our members are. And so we have a number of, smaller communities using those caucuses to really get some of these tangibles as well and provide some support. So we are creating space for folks to connect, again, using those networks, using those, networking opportunities, happy hour socials, to have folks come together and actually talk about what they're doing. So we have a number of folks for many different reasons within that area who are actively engaged in planning. Planning has started similar to, over a year ago, but we're getting those conversations. We actually started having some of those conversations within our region at our last annual conference, talking about things like human trafficking at major sporting events. Right. There's so many different things and so many different elements that we need to pay attention to within this field and within the profession, that this is just one of those events where we are going to illuminate any of those vulnerabilities very, very quickly. And we need to rally around that and prepare for it. So there's a lot of planning right now happening. Also Boston sports are always fun in themselves. But Foxborough or Gillette has done this many times, right? They are professionals at getting crowds in and out and being able to swell for those games. So there's an entire community that's built around major events, but really it is an olive region response and collaboration to get folks ready.
What are some of the biggest challenges that you have in Region 1 outside of having a bunch of Boston Red Sox fans over there? Just kind of.
Okay, Todd, it's fine. We did give you one of our best players to the Yankees. It's okay. We can be friends. We're all playing the same game. Something that always is at the top of our minds when we talk about Region 1 is just our structure for emergency management in the profession. We don't have really strong county governments. It's a lot of home rule state. And so everybody has to own their own jurisdiction. And so that makes it a little bit more complicated. So we don't have as much of a strong public-facing emergency management community. A lot of them are fantastic fire chiefs or police chiefs or Department of Public Works directors, town planners, city managers. This is their other duty as assigned and not necessarily their full-time role. So, we always joke about Vermont having probably 3 people in its population, but those 3 people will do emergency management and they'll do it really well.
Right.
Again, you have to bring that community together. But again, this has told us that we are not necessarily relying on our public-facing partners. We're looping together a whole different sector within the private sector. Our healthcare system is huge. Within New England, our universities and colleges are enormous. We have such a high concentration of energy emergency managers as well, that we really need to come together and figure out what we're all doing and what we're capable of doing, what we're not capable of doing, and how we're going to expect each other to respond to something. We're also maybe not so lucky, but also lucky at the same time. We really don't have those huge disasters, right? We don't have the major hurricane, the just terrible wildfire activity. We don't have those major events that would require us to bring together, hundreds and hundreds of folks just for one event for this long period of time. We just don't see that kind of disaster. And so we have other things that we need to deal with, and we work a little bit differently, right? We think about our snowstorms, things like that. That happens all the time. Yeah. But I think over time, we get a little fatigued. We get a little relaxed in what we do. And so it's that constant push to say, no, we need to be prepared for these big ones that might be coming, because even though they are really low probability, they might have a really significant impact to our region. Yeah. And so looking at how we're building those bridges across our sectors, building up our critical infrastructure, making sure that we're ready and prepared.
Yeah, I mean, I lived in the Northeast for most of my youth. Well, most all the way till I was, the big 21, right? Yeah, it's funny. I was talking to my wife the other day about this. I said, man, I guess now I've spent more time out of New York than in New York, in my life. But I'm still a Northeasterner by birth, by heart. The ice storms, the snowstorms, the spring floods, that you get, especially, when some of the rivers start flooding over. I know Vermont had some pretty significant ones a few years back. So those are the things that you can almost plan on your calendar, that you're going to have these, hopefully you miss an October ice storm. Like I've had a few of those, right? Where it starts talking power out and stuff.
Well, we've had a couple of those.
Right. Yeah. And everybody's like, well, ice storms. Like, yeah, you haven't lived through an ice storm. That's for sure. But I like every region has its own crisis, but I think everybody kind of comes together in when these things do occur. So I think that's great. Now, one of the things I find interesting, we talk about this really quick, just because, for the rest of the nation, I shouldn't say, maybe a lot still. I don't remember. I haven't talked to a lot of the town's political structure is really different from the rest of the country. Town hall meetings truly are like everybody gets a vote.
Yes.
Yeah, it's not like a city council meeting. It's everybody gets to say yes. Do we want to put a new road in or whatever? Is that challenging for emergency management?
It can be, and it can be a little bit tricky, but we're also trying to put some resources together. And IAEM over the last couple of years has done a great job at this as well. But putting together resources for some of those public-facing emergency managers to feel confident to advocate for what they do. I think that's something that inherently has been missing. You ask your town council to approve, your hazard mitigation plans. So that way you can go get grant funding, right? That's about the level of interaction. And, really beyond that, it's hard to ask for things when you have competing budgets. Budgets are sliced and diced in many different ways, and none of them really seem to grow. The investments aren't really there. And so with what we've seen over the last 18 months, it's how do we build up these folks to feel confident to go and approach their, aldermen, their, city council, their town, select boards. How do we give them the tools to go and speak about what they need and what these impacts have? We always joke that New Hampshire has like one of the largest legislated bodies like in the country per capita. Is enormous. I feel like everybody's neighbor is part of it. So it's not hard to get an ear, but you need to get a lot of ears to make impact, right? Even the executive council is kind of, the make or breakers. So there are a lot of opportunities for us. And we've seen some inroads there too with some advocacy, especially in Massachusetts, with partnering with our elected officials to actually advocate, create bills, put forward legislation to help bridge some of those gaps. I think Massachusetts has for the first time a disaster relief fund, which would help communities who just can't get to that disaster declaration or get that community match. So again, $6 million is a lot, but for a small community,
It's huge.
that's huge.
Yeah.
That's huge, especially when, for example, some of their EMPG funds or their grant funds might give them $2,500 a year, right? So
Right.
there's not a lot there internally. And so we've been working with folks across the board to try to figure out the best ways that we can allow folks to go and advocate, how we can help them advocate, even if that's just writing letters to their emergency management associations, their agencies at the state to say, hey, can you approach your governing body and say, help, we need
And-
help, and this is why.
And Region 1 has truly led the way in a lot of cases with some of the advocacy that's happening. I know that Dave and Taylor both wrote letters to different state assemblies and whatnot. And I think that really shows like why being a member of IAEM is critical, because when we have numbers in mass like that, when we go and talk to our elected officials, it really has the weight of the 6,000 members, not just the region members. All 6,000 members come behind that, and I think that's critical. And so that's one of the reasons why I'd like to see us get more membership at IAEM, so we can have a larger voice and a louder voice.
Absolutely.
So as far as that goes, advocacy, let's talk about that a little bit. Like, has that been well received by the elected officials?
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about that.
Absolutely. So I'll back up a little bit and I'll name drop, but we have been very fortunate. We've had a government and legislative affairs advisor on our executive board within the region for, probably at least 5, 6, 7 years. And his name is Christian Cunny, and he's a powerhouse. He is usually the force behind a lot of these initiatives. So I'm going to definitely give credit where credit is due. But policy shapes how we work. And he has done a tremendous job at building relationships and helping us build relationships and connections with our elected officials when it might have been a little bit tricky in the past. Even between state emergency management agencies, we've had some inroads with those as well, saying, hey, we're not here to compete with you. We want to be assistants. We want to help your voice when you can't be your voice. If you can't speak up about this issue, let us. And so we've provided many templates, letters, but really it's a lot of, Hill days, for example. We just did a Hill day last year in Massachusetts, where again, we talked about the state of the, what is happening when nobody really understood what was happening, laid out what was on track for, the coming year, or what we thought would be for the coming year. And then had some advocacy and some face time with those elected officials. Went to the State House, actually met with folks, met with the, commissions, with each of the committees, and actually had those conversations. I've gone down as well to DC to meet with our folks down in Congress and say, hey, I need 30 minutes. I don't care if it's with your lead staffer or you. I need somebody to have their ears open and willing to listen. So we've worked with Thad to coordinate a lot of these types of events, and he's been fantastic as well for the association. But again, to create those connections, to get the conversation going, but then continue those conversations when we get back home.
How can a member of IAEM get involved in that advocacy and letter writing and being, again, echoing the voice of what the organization is?
Yeah, well, there are a few ways, and there are many ways all at the same time. So, some of the things that I would point out to is our resource center, our advocacy resource center on IAEM.org. There were a lot of really great resources that we used populated on there. But also, if this is something that's of interest, join the caucus, right? Join the government affairs caucus and get involved and figure out, just what is happening in the nation. We're not unique in Region 1. Figure out how you can use and leverage some of those best practices. But again, we encourage folks to just start writing letters. Just write a letter to your representatives. If there's something even at the local level that is, causing issue or maybe concern, reach out. It's not going to hurt to have a conversation, understand where folks are coming from, but then also advocate for what you need.
Absolutely.
So we have a lot of letter templates that we can also share as well. Even signing up for just making sure you're reading through some of those association newsletters, the association bulletins, just making sure that you're keeping up with all of the position statements and letters that we've been writing, as a board, even just of late. So there are always positions, talking points. A lot of it is just, what do you need and how can we help you? And if there's something that just doesn't exist, we're happy to help collaborate and create that.
Absolutely. And Ashley Morris, thanks for this. She said, Christian has done some great work. When I think of local state advocacy and visibility, I think Christian. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I do too. And he's awesome.
Actually, I blanket appoint him every year, whether or not he wants to stay on or not. So we're not letting him go. He's a true gem for our region.
Absolutely. This is exciting stuff, and I know that people sometimes don't know what we do, when the IAEM, they join, and it's kind of like this, blank box that they, just, okay, I'm just doing this. They don't really get involved. And this is one of the reasons why we're doing this podcast series, this podcast, that's just series, but we're going to be doing this for a long time now, is to really get behind the scenes of what we do at IAEM, what our regional presidents are doing, what the regions are doing, and the membership in general. And so I do really appreciate you coming on board here with us for, Region 1. You guys hear the
Start with 1, work your way down.
Got to
Right?
be the test. Yeah. By the time you get to like Region 10, Kevin's going to be, everybody will be like, oh, whatever. Right. No, for 10, I should start with 10 next time, but,
Scramble them up.
Yeah, just put it up a little bit. We got Region 2 coming up next, obviously with Mike Prasad, that's going to be a fun conversation. I think it's funny, like the first few regions that we're doing all have 2, 3. Yeah, I think they all have World Cup matches,
No,
I believe.
who doesn't have a World Cup?
Yeah, no kidding.
Who doesn't have World Cup happening? It's going to take over this nation.
16 stadiums, right? So we got I can tell you. So I probably missed some stuff. If I miss your stadium, please forgive me. So we'll start on the West Coast. So we got Seattle, and then Canada has Vancouver, right? So it's Vancouver, which is really like next to each other. It's kind of weird.
We'll adopt it. It's okay.
Right. So you got Vancouver, you got Seattle, you have San Francisco, you got Inglewood, aka Los Angeles, right? So you got that, and then you're moving west or east. Denver, I think. I'm gonna have to look. Don't quote me on Denver, but for sure, Houston and Dallas, Kansas City, right, and then Miami, Philadelphia, New York, New Jersey, Boston. I think I'm missing one.
Well, that was 12.
12. But I'm thinking there's 2 in Canada, Toronto.
There you go.
And you get 2 in Mexico. So what am I missing? So I'm in there. Anyway, if I missed your stadium, or if I lied about, one, I think it was Denver. I was guessing on. I don't think it's Denver. Sorry, Denver. But yeah, so they're around. Right, they're all over the place. I have to look at. I don't have my list in front of me.
Again, good luck finding a region without FIFA activities.
Yeah, Miami. You guys, Hard Rock Cafe. If you guys want to go down there and watch a soccer game, I guess, or come out to LA, I'd love to have you. But
we're already going out to LA in November.
Yeah, but there's not going to be I'm not a big. See, okay, I got to admit, right? So I don't know much about that sport. I know the rules, like the general rules. Don't touch the ball, kick it into the net. Evidently, if you get near another player, they fall on the ground.
It's very dramatic.
Very dramatic. I'm a rugby player, so we like to whack into other players. Oh, wait, Nicole Blankenship. She is a huge soccer fan, and I appreciate the sport. I do appreciate the athleticism, because those dudes and ladies who play soccer are running back and forth all day long.
True athletes.
Yeah. So I'm not making fun of the athleticism. Just some of this stuff is very dramatic.
I will say some games, though, even the fans in the stadium in those seats, they get a workout too. Let me tell you, they are very passionate, and It's going to be a whole different adventure, I think, for us. And it's exciting, but also a lot of work to do.
Yeah, so I did get to be in the stadium. I was in the stadium for the Confa Cup championship between Mexico and Dominica. And that was one of the most, I mean, like the game itself was the game, right? And it was interesting. It was really different. I like any other sport. You go to the sport at the stadium is different, but the fans were intense. And
Yes.
I've been to some crazy. I'm a hockey fan. I've been in at Madison Square Garden in the Blue Zone when guys are getting in fights over a hockey match. I get that, right? But this like amplified that by 10 times than hockey fans.
It's a completely different experience. Thank goodness Nicole is piping in and keeping us online. I love this.
So Nicole's giving us some serious information. So anyway, I just want to talk about the World Cup a little bit because every one of our regions is impacted by it. And I think if anybody wants to learn more about the sport of soccer or football, depending on where you're from,
Football.
Nicole is your lady to get a hold of. And 10 miles. Think about this: 10 miles. So you're running like half a marathon during a game. Yeah, that's a lot. Except for the goalie. That's a job right there. So
I don't know. They're quick. They're quick. They're agile, and I don't know, but I've seen the size of those nets, and they're not small.
No, but I'm saying you're not running 10 miles back and forth though.
No, they're still working hard.
They are. All right. We're not here to talk about soccer. We're here to talk about Chelsea St. George. I am president of IAEM-USA Region 1, and excited to have you here. We are at the end of our time for today. Everybody, please, every other week we'll be having this show. Once a month we'll be having the regions on here. We have a lot of good stuff coming up. Please look for us on LinkedIn. We have a Substack as well. IAEM-USA Substack. Please find that and subscribe to it. And if you want to get a hold of Chelsea for IAEM, there's her email.
Yes, thank you.
Down, and she loves emails, so you can.
I do.
Fill her. Yep.
Fill
her up. And there we go. So until next time, everybody, please, as I like to say, stay hydrated.
Coffee stain badge on a lanyard string. Hotel ballroom. Buzzing. Fluorescent with